Here we go.
You are about to experience the Skip Bayless Show, brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And yes, I am reduced to wearing the jersey of my kicker, the greatest kicker in the history of the National Football League, Brandon Aubrey, because he's all I have left to root for. Which brings me to Micah Parsons, who was often a missing Parsons for me in Dallas the last 3 years, requiring me to file a missing Parsons report. And now he's found a new home in Green Bay, and he's returning to his former home this Sunday night at Jerry World, seeking and probably wreaking revenge. But before I get to that, allow me to pour my guts out for you about my lifelong, diehard love and sometimes love-hate relationship with my Dallas Cowboys. For some reason in my life, it's always Green Bay. It always comes down to the Green Bay Packers haunting me. Since I was a kid back in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, the Green Bay Packers have haunted and haunted and haunted me some more over these many years I've hung in with my Dallas Cowboys. And now, of all places, Micah is traded to Green Bay. It's become like gangrene for me, like I've got gangrene Bay. It's like they're a disease inflicted upon me. And of all places that Jerry Jones could trade Micah to, it had to be Green Bay, gangrene Bay. I've got it. I'm afflicted with it worse than ever because Micah has found a new home where he can front run in Green Bay, Wisconsin, Titletown, nightmare town for me, because it always has been. And I don't know why, but allow me to start with the story of my fairly early fandom. I did go to my first game thanks to my uncle in Dallas, Texas. Invited me to go to get my parents to drive me down, which my parents reluctantly drove me for the weekend to Dallas to see Uncle Jim Bell, because he was a high school football coach, an assistant coach, and a basketball coach who wanted to take me to my first ever pro football game at the Cotton Bowl, because I loved at that point the St. Louis Cardinals football team. I loved the baseball team too, but it was the one game in those days, early TV days, that we could get in Oklahoma. So every Sunday I watched my St. Louis Cardinals, play. And I fell in love with a lot of their players to the point where I thought, well, if I'm ever going to see a game, I'd rather see the St. Louis Cardinals play these upstarts called the Dallas Cowboys, an expansion team in Dallas. At that point, the Dallas Texans were more popular in Dallas than the Cowboys, who were terrible. But at age 10, I went to a game to watch the Cardinals, and as it happens to many kids around this country, if not around this world, I fell in love with this color. In those days, they had the stars on the shoulder pads. It just got me. And I knew by the third quarter, I wasn't rooting for the St. Louis Cardinals anymore. I was rooting for the home team, featuring a little 5'7" quarterback named Eddie LeBaron at quarterback. Eddie LeBaron. They got me. They got me good. And just as I started to love them, they started to take off under Tom Landry. And they rose all the way to 1966. It was January 1st of 67 actually. It was the 1966 championship game. There was no Super Bowl yet. I didn't go to the game, but the Green Bay Packers played the game at the Cotton Bowl against my Dallas Cowboys for all the marbles for the NFL championship. And Vince Lombardi's Packers beat my Cowboys 34-27, a game I watched very closely on television. And it ripped my soul out because we had them. Don Meredith was my quarterback, and then we didn't have them. I thought we could hold Green Bay to under 34 points, at least under 30, and we couldn't. And they outscored us 34-27, which led me to my next year. We bounced right back and wound up in the NFL championship game, but this time it was at Green Bay. And that Sunday, my father had just entered rehab for alcoholism at the VA hospital in Oklahoma City. And my mother insisted that we go visit him in the hospital. He was so bad at that point, they actually had to give him a hospital room before he went into the hardcore rehab, which never worked. But that Sunday, I was required to go to the VA hospital with my mother to visit my father in a hospital room. I couldn't take it for very long, and I told her, I have to watch this game. And she told me she'd been there with him a couple of nights before. And she said, they have TVs. You can watch it. So in the hallway, they had mounted outside the hotel room a little black and white TV. It was black and white. I'll never forget it. And I sat in this single chair in the hall outside his room and watched what became known as the Ice Bowl. December 31st of 1967, probably before your time, but I'm sure if you're a Cowboy fanatic the way I am, you've heard all about it. It was 50 below wind chill. It was a game that should never have been played. It was a game that came down to a quarterback sneak by Bart Starr over his guard, Jerry Kramer. My defensive lineman could not get a foothold in the ice. The field was a sheet of ice. We're easily pushed backward off the ball, and Bart Starr was able to sneak it in over Jerry Kramer for the 21-17 touchdown. December 31st of 1967, the Ice Bowl turned my soul to ice. Devastated me as I sat in the hall outside my father's VA hospital hotel room as he entered rehab. I think that was the second time out of 3. None ever worked. He died at 49 of cirrhosis of the liver, the classic alcohol disease. And I died several thousand deaths sitting in that lone chair outside his room in the hallway watching the little black and white TV. Jerry Kramer wound up writing a book with the great Dick Schaap of ESPN fame, dear friend of mine, confidant of mine, mentor of mine. They wrote a book that was I guess it was the first ever best-selling sports book about pro football, and it was called Instant Replay, and it was inside a championship team from the inside out. Jerry Kramer was brilliant, effusive, eloquent, and he helped Dick with the book, just carry the book, and it became a runaway New York Times bestseller. Instant Replay off that game of which I was the victim. So if I can fast forward, in recent memory, would you believe the Green Bay Packers have beaten my Dallas Cowboys 10 of the last 11 games? 10 of the last 11. The only time we won a game was in Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott's rookie year. We went up to Green Bay in our 6th game of the year and beat Green Bay at Green Bay, beat Aaron Rodgers at his own game to rise to 5-1 with a rookie quarterback and a rookie running back. We actually won 11 straight. We lost to Eli at home in the opener that year. But we announced our national arrival by beating Aaron at Aaron. That was the only game we've won in the last 11 games. 10 of the last 11, Green Bay has beaten us. Aaron Rodgers went 8-2 in his career, has gone 8-2 in his career against Dallas, but one was in his first year of starting at Green Bay back in 2008. I don't count that one. The other one was, I just detailed for you, the game that got us to 5-1 on the way to 11-1, Zeke's rookie year. And how did that year culminate? With Aaron returning to what became the scene of many crimes committed by him on us. We were 13-3 in the 1 seed with a week off, and we were not ready for the Green Bay Packers at home. They jumped all over us, but we fought back. Dak fought back. Dak was valiant in that game. And it came down to 2 intergalactic field goals off the foot of Mason Crossbar. The first one, a dying quail that he sliced a little to the right from 55 yards, and it was dying and fluttering and dying, and it eked over the crossbar just inside the right upright. I couldn't believe it made it, but it did. And then the game winner came off the same foot of Mason Crossbar. That was a 51-yarder, which he duck hooked off his foot, and somehow indoors, thanks to the hand of God, Green Bay's God, the ball was moved as it hooked to the left, back to the right, and just inside the left upright. Green Bay 34, Dallas 31. Thank you, Aaron. There were several other visits to Dallas, 2 others, in fact, in which Aaron just threw parties on my Cowboys at Jerry World. Aaron has owned us. So the only stretch that I hang on to when it comes to Green Bay was what happened in the golden era of the Dallas Cowboys. The 90s. I hope by now you've seen the documentary, America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, featuring Jerry Jones, and to a much lesser extent featuring me as kind of the moderator/commentator, bridging gaps from controversy to controversy. That was it. That was our golden age. I mean, not that Roger Staubach didn't produce many big wins before that, but nothing involved Green Bay. But would you believe that through the 90s, we won 9 of 10 against the Green Bay Packers? And through the 90s dynasty, detailed in the Netflix doc, in 93, at the end of the 93 season, the divisional round at Dallas, we beat Brett Favre 27-17. 94 divisional round, we beat Brett Favre at Dallas 35-9. 95 season, our last in the championship game, the last championship game we ever actually made it to, followed by the Super Bowl that we won against Pittsburgh. But that championship game was in Dallas against Brett Favre and the Packers, and we won 38-27. Against Brett Favre through the 90s in those 3 playoff games, we owned him the way Aaron has owned us. But we did have our run in the sun against Brett Favre because he completed only 56% of his passes in those 3 games and went 5 touchdowns to 5 interceptions with 1 lost fumble. So 5 touchdown passes for Brett Favre to 6 turnovers for Brett Favre. Man, were those not the days? So now here we are, present day. And how lucky has Micah Parsons been not to get traded to the Jets, who were interested? For that matter, not to even be traded to the Eagles. That would have been a nightmare in a different way. We could have just called off the Super Bowl and just awarded them the trophy immediately. Put Mike on that defense. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Whew. Zach Bond. Cooper DeJean. Mitchell. I can go on and on. Oh, it'd be over. But this was close. Because this is an NFC rival of sorts. And for me, this is Green Bay all over again, because Micah gets to join a top 5 defense already, featuring Rashawn Gary, Van Ness, Wyatt, Edgerrin Cooper. They're loaded with talent and pass rushers already. They didn't really need Micah Parsons, but all of a sudden he was able to front run with them in Green Bay, and he gets thrown into a raging bonfire of new hope and, to me, premature adulation and joy that has Micah Parsons rising into some sort of blend of Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor, and the great Charles Haley. All rolled into one is now Micah Parsons. I didn't know that Micah Parsons over the last 3 years in Dallas, but suddenly that's who he is. And in those first 2 home games, they were able to wait to introduce him until last. And if that stadium at Lambeau had had a roof on it, it would have been blown completely off. The hysteria, the jubilation, the we just won the championship with Micah Parsons was very hard for me to swallow. It's Green Bay again, and they overwhelmed the Detroit Lions with extreme early energy, and they overwhelmed the Washington Commanders with extreme early energy and literally blew both of those teams off the field in the first quarter. And Micah was able to pick his spots, his pass rushing spots, and go in and proverbially pin his ears back and tee off on Jared Goff and Jaden Daniels. By the way, Micah was chasing Jaden when he looked over his shoulder and didn't see a Packer coming from his left and undercutting him, and it hurt his knee. And I've been told it's not nearly as serious as they thought it initially was, that he'll probably miss only 2 weeks and be back. Good for Jaden. But Micah did cause that, and Micah did have a chase down ambush sack of Jared Goff, who obviously was sensational at Baltimore on Monday Night Football, as he was sensational against those Chicago Bears, who scored 52 at home, the Lions scored 52 at home against the Bears. So think about how lucky Micah is now. In his big return revenge game at Jerry World this Sunday night, he gets to play a Dallas team without its heart and soul player, without its leader, without its playmaker, without its driving force, without number 88, CeeDee Lamb, gone. Lost against the Bears on a running play. We couldn't just toss him a little screen, wide receiver screen, a little slant early in the first couple of plays just to get him a touch. We had to wait and put him as the solo tailback and hand it to him to where he had to bounce it out to the right because there was nowhere to blast it up the middle. Wasn't even a trick play. There was nothing deceptive about it. And he gets rolled up on from behind. And he's gone for I don't know how long with a high ankle sprain. Definitely gone for Sunday night. He's got a high pain threshold, but I don't think even CD can pull this one off, even though he wanted to go back into Sunday's game. And the more he walked and talked on the sideline, he said the better he felt. I guess the Cowboys felt differently, and he has been ruled officially out and gone. And then I hear out of the blue, another huge break for Micah Parsons. Wait, Tyler Booker is out too? Our rookie first-round starting right guard is gone? What? I didn't hear a peep about this. And then I read that on the second-to-last offensive play, as we're getting blown off the field at Soldier Field, that Miles Sanders ran into the back of Tyler Booker and somehow stepped. I don't know if it looked like there was another defensive lineman involved, but somehow Tyler Booker got his ankle bent inside out, and he's got a high ankle sprain, and he's gone for whatever, 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know. So think about this. Now we've lost a first-round pick at right guard. We've lost a third-round pick at center in Cooper Beebe, gone with a fractured foot. So against Micah Parsons, in that hellacious pass rush already in Green Bay, we're going to deal with that rush with a center named Brock Hoffman, who was undrafted, a right guard named TJ Bass, who was undrafted, and a right tackle named Terrence Steele, always a starter, but he was also undrafted. So that whole right side of the line was undrafted. 7 rounds and God knows how many picks, pick after pick after pick. 32 teams kept saying no to Brock Hoffman and TJ Bass and Terrence Steele. They said no until the draft was over to all three. And that's how we're supposed to fight against Micah Parsons. That's how we're supposed to battle him. That's how we're going to stand him off. That's how we're going to hold him off with 3 undrafted starting offensive linemen. Good luck with that. So it got so bad this week that someone in the media, and I'm not going to call out anyone in the media, but this really, really steamed me. This really chapped my ass. This really was excruciatingly bad to have to hear a media member ask Jerry Jones this question. Jerry, do you plan a video tribute to Micah ahead of Sunday night's game at home? A what? That's what I say. The world has gone mad. I've been telling you, sitting in this chair for week after week, the world has flipped out and lost it about Micah Parsons. The world doesn't get it. Cowboy fans, knowledgeable, astute Cowboy fans, rational Cowboy fans, maybe that's an oxymoron, reasonable Cowboy fans, undelusional Cowboy fans, if they've watched closely over the last 3 years, they've seen no Lawrence Taylor, no Reggie White, no Charles Haley, and Micah Parsons. Nope, nope, and double nope. So Jerry, who's want to put foot in mouth when a mic is presented to him, or many mics, actually had a very reasonable, rational answer to a really stupid question, a really offensive, outrageous, dumb question. Jerry said, I don't think that's appropriate this way. Emmett was a different story. Well, obviously, if you saw the Cowboy documentary, Netflix, when Emmett left for Arizona, which I did not agree with. You're just collecting checks now. Maybe you're padding stats, but you're just playing for a bad team in Arizona for a couple of more years. I just didn't buy it, but whatever. Obviously, this forced Emmett to return to Old Texas Stadium to play against his ex-team, the Cowboys. And obviously, when Emmett came back, you go video tribute. You idolize, you worship, you put on pedestal. I mean, all he did was be the driving force of 3 championship teams, 3 Super Bowl rings. And all he had done in Dallas was set the all-time career rushing record, all-time, breaking Walter Payton's record. So obviously with Emmitt Smith, yes, you pay your respects, you pay homage, you pay him his dues. He earned a video tribute. But Micah Parsons, a video tribute for what? 4 playoff games he played for my Dallas Cowboys, and in all 4, he totaled 1 sack, which came with 1:29 left in a 31-14 blowout win at Tampa against the 8-9 Buccaneers, who had stolen their division in Tom Brady's last year. And that sack with 1:29 left came against the 45-year-old Tom Brady. That's all I got to show for 4 playoff games from Micah Parsons. Remember the playoff game? Gangrene Bay. They did it to me again. It's like a disease. I got a disease. I got a Green Bay disease because they came to Dallas as the 7 seed, the youngest team by far in the postseason. We're the 2 seed. Happy days are here again. Here we go. We got this. First championship game, what? At that point in 28 years? I'll take it. And Green Bay took it. And did they ever take it to us? It was 27-0 before halftime. Micah played the whole game. Completely healthy Micah Parsons. He put up goose eggs in his defensive stats. Just big old 0, 0, 0, 0 all the way across. 27-0 before halftime. Not all his fault. But if he's your best player on defense, I don't know. Video tribute? Are you kidding me? And then Jerry continued in his response to that outrageous question. I think Micah has enough welcome out there. Boom. Exactly. Enough welcome from Cowboy Nation. It seems like 9/10 of 99 100ths of Cowboy Nation has flipped out and overreacted to losing Micah Parsons for Kenny Clark, obviously, and draft picks. Kenny Clark's a good player. He turned his ankle the other day. I hope he's okay. He came back in the game. He's a good player. He should be helping us way more than he has helped us so far. And I think he slowly but surely will. But enough welcome is exactly right, Jerry, because all of a sudden Cowboy Nation has fallen in love with a player who never deserved love when he was in Dallas. All of a sudden, he's become something as a Packer that he never was as a Cowboy so far. And Jerry finished his response to that ridiculous question by saying, and we just need to show that we've got antidotes for that, meaning that welcome out there that he's going to get. I mean, Jerry World's going to give him a standing ovation before the game. Jerry World's going to idolize him as if he were Charles Haley winning 3 Super Bowl rings for the Cowboys. I campaigned for years for Charles to get in the Hall of Fame. Finally, he did. He didn't always like me, but I campaigned for him. Micah Parsons isn't in Charles Haley's galaxy, not in his galaxy, and certainly does not belong in the same sentence with Charles Haley. Baddest pass rusher I ever saw. God. Couldn't block him, couldn't keep him off the quarterback. Talk about grown man strength. Whew. Talk about explosive quickness. Micah's got all the athletic package, quickness, the speed. Charles Haley was a cold-blooded football killer. Every big game he rose and he shone. Not Micah. I don't sense any football killer in Micah Parsons. He is not he or him. He is not it. He's not that dude. He's just supremely talented. I get the tangibles. I don't see the intangibles. Bigger the moment, the more he shrinks. Which brings me to Sunday. So, even though it should be advantage Green Bay in every way, shape, and form, no CD, I got 3 undrafteds across the right side of the line. You know, maybe I'm just clinging to my preseason prediction. I predicted before the season that we just get revenge. It's a blood game for us. A lot of players on that field know what happened, what it felt like to be down 27-0 in a home playoff game to that team. You just rise up and say, no, that's enough. Not in our house, not this time. Obviously, they don't have CD. But they do have Dak Prescott. And for what it's worth, I think Deron Bland's going to try to return to the lineup this week. And maybe Trevon Diggs can get it together. He talked a good game this week. He didn't play a good game at Chicago. Roasted and toasted. But we did sign Jadeveon Clowney. And he's not too old to make some impact. I expect him to flash 2 or 3 times a game, and maybe he can give us some pass rush. I still like the individual pieces of our pass rush, as long as Sam Williams is not trying to spy Caleb Williams every down and just being neutralized. I think he can rush the passer. I've seen Dante Fowler wreck games before, and so far, he's wrecked only himself. Can't get off blocks. I don't get it. Odigizua can rush the passer from up the gut. Haven't seen much of it yet. Solomon Thomas, I've seen a few flashes. He can rush the passer. Kenny Clark can anchor against the run, and he can rush the passer. Ezra Ruwaku, who I loved as a second-round pick, number 41, I keep waiting to see it. Haven't seen it yet. James Houston was the star, the shining light of the preseason, and he has flashed for me, sometimes on special teams and sometimes sacking the quarterback, but I need to see more. I need my whole team to just rise up and say, we're sick and tired of hearing that we're dead and buried without Micah Parsons. That's all for once against the Green Bay freaking Packers, I need the Dallas Cowboys to stand tall and say, not in our house. Yeah, we've got some injuries, but we've still got some players. We still have Dak Prescott, and we have George Pickens. And we have little Turpentine. And we have Jake Ferguson. And we have the biggest, baddest left guard in pro football in Tyler Smith. And all of a sudden, we found a running game in Javonte Williams. And that's all I know is that even though I heard a guy I used to know, Daryl Johnston, Moose, blocked for Emmett in the Dynasty years. I heard him say as the commentator the other day on the Green Bay at Cleveland game, I heard him say in the fourth quarter that Micah Parsons is also an excellent player of the run, that he plays the run at a high level. I heard him say that. He's also excellent against the run. The what? Let's see. My one revelation has been Javonte Williams. They took him off the trash heap from Denver. He's gone through a bad knee injury, and he's running his tail off for the Dallas Cowboys as their new tailback. I love what I see. I love the grit, the toughness. little burst inside, just when I think he's hit the brick wall, he moves the brick wall. And we need to go at him again and again and again, at Micah Parsons with Javonte Williams. Go, go, go. I can't forget those first week 2 and 3, the first 2 home games last year. Micah completely healthy. The New Orleans Saints came in and we were down 35-16 at halftime. They gave up, the Cowboy defense, Micah's defense gave up 35 in the first half because they ran at him with Kamara all day and all night. And then here came Baltimore in week 3 at Jerry World just a year ago, week 3. They went for 274 yards after New Orleans had gone for 190. 274 by the Baltimore Ravens. Running at the number 11. Used to call him 11 from heaven. Now he's 11 from hell, though he's now number 1 in your hearts in Green Bay. 274 by the Baltimore Ravens, who were up 28-6 after 3 quarters at Jerry World just a year ago in week 3. We can do that to them with Javonte and some Miles Sanders. We can do that to them. Maybe we can run the ball. Maybe we can control some clock. And maybe, just maybe, the Green Bay Packers, to quote Micah, after they just, I'm quoting him, he said, we shit the bed. This is right after the loss at Cleveland the other day. 13-10. They fell apart late. Jordan Love made one big late mistake. 4 minutes to go. Threw an inexplicable interception. Great play by Delpit. Smart play. That opened the door, and here they went. Even Joe Flacco came to life for the Cleveland Browns. Maybe there's just a little doubt now in the Packers. Now that they know Micah is not magic, that they're not going to go 17-0 because of Micah Parsons' presence, that they are vulnerable, that they are not invincible, that Micah's capable of getting outplayed by Myles Garrett, which he did. Maybe they come in with just a little bit of creeping doubt, just a little bit, and they're full of themselves, and they're 6.5-point favorites. I know I texted my man Lil Wayne the other night, world's biggest Packer fan, and I was actually just kind of kidding around. I was trying to do the reverse jinx, but I predicted to him in a text, Green Bay 35, Dallas 10, Micah 4 sacks. And I thought he'd text back, stop it, be much closer than that, try to sort of unjinx the jinx attempt. But no, he texted back, I'm just paraphrasing, but he just said, that's right, that's what's going to happen. I said, congratulations. So maybe that's what the Packers will think. And maybe for once the Dallas Cowboys will reach down and find a little bit of pride somewhere in the bottom of their hearts and souls, just a little bit of pride. And maybe everybody will play a little bit over their helmets. Maybe it'll be one of those weird games where they just hang in and hang on. It's hard for me to predict a win, but I'll go this far. I'll make my first FanDuel pick of this podcast. And I'll say, give me Dallas plus the 6.5. Give me a little pride. Give me a little self-respect. Give me just a sliver of hope that we're a little better than most people think we are, because I still think we're a lot better than we played at Chicago. Please tell me we were just looking ahead to Green Bay, the way Green Bay potentially was looking ahead to Dallas. Please tell me that Sunday night is the night that we break through against my Green Bay curse. I'm not going to pick Dallas because I don't want to jinx them. But I just think we'll play a whole lot better than Lil Wayne and the rest of the world thinks. Which brings me back to FanDuel. FanDuel is getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You can pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, you can bet player props, you can ride the live lines, whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is now in full swing. The only question is, are you ready to play? I mean, play. Visit FanDuel.com/skip. Use my first name, FanDuel.com/skip, to download the FanDuel app today. Do it right now. Get started now. My picks for this week. Thursday night game. Seattle at Arizona. I'm going to take the Seahawks to win that game big, so to give the 1.5. Seahawks to win that game pretty big, maybe by a couple touchdowns. I think they got something going there. And then, speaking of the Cleveland Browns, I know Detroit was spectacular on Monday night. What a game they played. They did everything right, everything so right at Baltimore. But there's got to be a little bit of letdown. And Cleveland is really, really good. It's the best defense in pro football. Number one against the run. I don't think that Detroit's going to run for 224 against the Browns defense at home as they ran for 224 against the Ravens defense at Baltimore. I like the Browns to cover 6.5, and I'll be watching like this, but I just think they will, and maybe Fluco will make a couple of throws, and they got Judkins unleashed now. And I liked his style, and I think he's going to give him a new bit of pop and flash and dash. I like that. And then, of course, my Dallas pick. Dallas plus 6.5. Those are my picks for this week. Which brings me to Caitlin Clark. Hear me out. Think with me on this. If Caitlin Clark were a he right now, playing in the NBA, the world would be going crazy over, hey, Caitlin, why aren't you playing? But because she's a she, and because the WNBA is the most secretive league in the history of professional sports, somehow she and it have gotten away with everybody just shrugging and going on with, oh, the Fever, oh, aren't they cute? And she's leading the bench mob for the Fever, head cheerleader on the bench. But wait a second, time out. I love Caitlin Clark. That's the point of all this. She's it to me. She is the reason for watching. I have a hard time watching, though the Fever is starting to draw me back in bit by bit, because they still have two of their stars, Aaliyah and Kelsey. And they still have Lexi Hall, and I know they've had a spate of injuries starting with Caitlin, but still, I don't know what, I've brought this up several times. Caitlin had 4 different pulls of different things in her legs after she'd gone years since high school without injury, and suddenly she had nothing but injuries. She was mired in a horrible shooting slump, but she's Caitlin Clark. So she pulls her groin. It's been 2 months ago she pulls her groin. Well, unless it's something they're guarding, not disclosing, help me out here. I know pulled groins. I've had my share. I've had pulled hamstrings. I've had all kinds of pulls. Broken down marathon runner. But a groin, if you give it 2 months, it should be good to go. Seriously, there's so much treatment you can use today. You can even go with acupuncture, but there's ice and stimulation and all kinds of stretching. You can heal a groin in 2 months. So you say, well, she obviously wouldn't be in game shape. Well, she's Caitlin Clark. You don't think this suddenly hot Fever team could use Caitlin Clark? I thought they had a shot to win it all with her obviously healthy, along with the rest of the roster. But now that they've recaught fire, why isn't she trying to play a little, I don't know, 10 minutes a night, 15 minutes a night? Is it about the slump? Does she not want to risk going right back into the shooting slump? Is it she doesn't want to risk wrecking the chemistry that they've rebuilt without her? I mean, for a while, I thought she was just making a statement that she'd taken so much abuse from all the other veteran players on other teams, both verbal and physical abuse, bullying abuse. I thought she was trying to say, hey, okay, I'll just sit out the rest of this and see how you like your ratings from this point on. Well, now it's like, wait a second, Caitlin, how's this team doing so well without you? Don't you want to show that you are Caitlin Clark? And my God, think about the ratings. If she came back right now, oh God, it would be, I'd be all over it. Even on, if they played on NFL Sunday, I promise you I would keep one eye on Caitlin and the Indiana Fever if she came back right now. If it were a guy in the NBA, or heck, a guy in the NFL, guy in baseball, whatever, guy in hockey, then the world would be more conditioned to say, hey, come on, man, you're it. You gotta come back. You might as well give it a shot. You got the whole offseason to heal. Groin pull? I mean, come on, Caitlin, you could try right now, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it repulls, you got the whole offseason to get it right. They need you. Surely they want you back. I don't know. There's no reporting on this, so I'm just throwing it out into the stratosphere because the WNBA gives you nothing about anything. I have no idea what's going on. It's the most underreported league in the history of professional sports. They just want you to know the platitude interviews, the real nice interviews, but anything controversial, nope, we don't do controversy. Any question, no. It's made clear to the reporters you don't ask controversial questions. Christine Brennan wrote the book on Caitlin Clark, and she was chastised by several WNBA veteran players. You don't ask those kind of questions to us. Nope, you don't. I don't get it. But I don't get why Caitlin Clark is not playing basketball right now, or at least trying to, just for the sake of her team and her town and the league. How can, after 2 months, how can you not be trying to come back right now with all your might? Surely she could play a few minutes a night. Surely she could make the Fever just a little bit better. And as she played her way into shape, who knows, maybe miracles would happen. She is a miracle maker. Man, do I ever miss you, Caitlin Clark. By the way, this episode is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. If you own a business, hiring can be so time-consuming. I've heard stories of employers waiting weeks, even months, for the right candidate to apply. That's not to include the time spent sorting through resumes. Then you have to get in touch with the potential candidate, which can be its own hassle, monumental trouble. My point is that an employer looking for a qualified candidate can be a headache. Well, the future of hiring looks much brighter because ZipRecruiter's latest tools and features help speed up finding the right people for your right roles. With ZipRecruiter's new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates just in minutes. You see a candidate you're really interested in, you can unlock their contact info instantly. Over 320,000 new resumes are added to ZipRecruiter every single month, which means you can reach more potential hires. You can fill roles sooner. Just use ZipRecruiter and save time hiring. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And if you go to ziprecruiter.com/skip, SKIP, go there right now, you can try it for free. You might as well just try it for free. Again, that's ziprecruiter.com/SKIP. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Which brings me finally to Shadeur Sanders. A favorite subject of mine because he's a favorite player of mine without a real home, without a real opportunity, without real hope that he so deserves. Again, he should have been the first overall pick in the draft. My friend Mel Kiper had him ranked above Cam Ward, as did I. First overall pick to Tennessee. Right now, should have been Shedeur starting for the Tennessee Titans as we speak. That obviously didn't happen because the NFL and its good old boy network decided to teach Shedeur and in turn his father lessons. We don't act the way you're acting. Faces of the franchise in our league don't conduct themselves the way you conduct yourself in interviews. Yeah, he was brash. He was outspokenly brash. He was a little arrogant. I get it. He said some things he probably shouldn't have said to some NFL GMs and scouts and coaches that he shouldn't have said to. And they made him pay. Word was passed around. I'm not saying there was an official memo sent out. Don't draft Shedeur. I heard all kinds of things about he doesn't have the arm strength. Baloney. He's got plenty. He's got every bit the arm that Tom Brady ever had. By the way, speaking of Brady, now that you know that he's wearing a headset for the Las Vegas Raiders, of which he owns 5%, that's a big chunk, $400 million worth. But now that you know he's that actively involved from day to day with the Raiders, you don't think it was his word that was the bond in Las Vegas for not taking Shedeur? They had 7 chances to take Shedeur before Cleveland finally took him in the 5th round. 7 chances. And Tom Brady's Raiders passed 7 times on Shadeur Sanders. Outrageous. Biggest shame I've ever experienced in all my time covering NFL drafts was Shedeur falling to the 5th round. It's just wrong. But now maybe there's a glimmer of hope provided by his father. So, before the draft, Shedeur and Deion did have dinner with Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Cleveland Browns. And even though they didn't want to go to the Browns in the first round, the sorry-ass Browns, they did like Jimmy Haslam, and he liked them. And Jimmy would love to rub elbows on the reg with Deion and in turn his son. Jimmy Haslam loves publicity, and he knew that once the 5th round hit, that if he told his GM and his head coach, we are taking Shedeur here, that it would cause quite a big publicity splash. You can call it a publicity stunt, if you will, but Jimmy Haslam took Shedeur. Kevin Stefanski wanted 0 to do with Shedeur Sanders. They had already taken 50 slots earlier, Dylan Gabriel. I'm going to tell you again about Dylan Gabriel. I watched him a lot at Oklahoma. He's a little better than Tua, and he's right out of the Tua mold from Hawaii. Left-handed, short, 5'11", 205-ish, accurate. He's better than Tua, but he's not better than Shedeur. But just because Jimmy Haslam likes Deion, and in turn his son, it gives me hope when Deion went on the New Heights podcast. I think it was taped late last week, and it dropped on Monday after the Browns had pulled off their big upset win over the Packers. But Deion volunteered, I have a prediction to make, and he predicted that Shedeur would get to start some games. It sounded plural to me. For this year's Cleveland Browns. Well, it's sort of hard to fathom, so they pull off the big upset with Fluco. Dillon Gabriel's sitting second on the depth chart, and he played very well in the preseason, as did Shedeur in the one big start that he had with the first and second team players. So, really, to me, third on the depth chart is Bailey Zappi. Even though he's not listed, he's on the practice squad. But I know that Stefanski loves him because Belichick loved him. Belichick took him in the fourth round out of Western Kentucky because he decided he had made a mistake on Mac Brown, and he liked Bailey Zappi better than he liked Mac Brown. Bailey Zappi started 8 games in New England and won 4 of them, 4-4. I thought Belichick really loved him, but he finally didn't make it. And yet he started a game late last season for Cleveland. He's on the depth chart. Well, you can't tell me that Stefanski doesn't love Bailey Zappi and Dillon Gabriel far more than he loves Shadeur Sanders. So it's sort of hard to do the math here unless there's just a spate of unfortunate injuries. And I'm knocking on wood for these guys. I don't wish it on anybody. And the other issue arises, Cleveland's got the best defense in pro football, as I said, and Cleveland is number 1 against the run in pro football. And Cleveland's got 2 kids on that defense, Mason Graham and Carson Schlesinger out of UCLA, who leads the team in tackles, that they're having instant impact. They got Myles Garrett, who's way better than Micah Parsons ever dreamed of being, as both a run stuffer and a quarterback sacker. And because of that defense, and because, as I mentioned earlier, Judkins has emerged as a real tote that rock difference maker, as you saw late, certainly against Green Bay. Now I'm looking at the schedule, and I'm looking at games like they got Miami at home, they got at New England, they got at Jets, they got at Las Vegas, they got Tennessee at home, they got at Cincinnati, they got Pittsburgh at home. They can beat Pittsburgh at home. They can. They can shackle Aaron Rodgers. They could win a low-scoring game with Pittsburgh. They're that good. They're a legit defense. It's the best defense in pro football. So my point to you is, what if Fluco keeps putting up 14 or 17 points and they start winning some of these games? They could easily, they're now 1-2, obviously. Well, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 more games. What if they got to 8 wins? That'd be a hellacious year. That would save Stefanski's job. You don't think Stefanski wants to save his job? So it's hard, realistically, to see how Shedeur is going to start games for this team and this head coach unless the owner steps in and says, no, Shedeur will start. And trust me, Jimmy Haslam is capable of doing just that. Well, I'm going to say it again. I am serious about this from the bottom of my heart. If Shedeur had started, I know this is completely unrealistic, but if he had started from game 1 for the Cleveland Browns, they would have beaten Joe Burrow, who was still healthy at that point, in Cincinnati because it was 17-16. Shedeur would have won that game. No doubt. Would Shedeur have been able to win at Baltimore? No, it was 41-17. But Shedeur would have done even better. They would have won by 10 against Green Bay, the way the defense played, if Shedeur had been the quarterback. If Shedeur were the quarterback, hypothetically, for the whole year, this would be the talk of the world, of the sports world, would be Shedeur and the Browns wreaking havoc. They could win a bunch of games. Shedeur, seriously, I'm a fan. I believe in him. I believe in his intangibles. I believe he was born and raised to be a star quarterback in the National Football League, and I believe in his father with all my might. I know him, and I believe in him, and I trust him, and he believes his son is bona fide, star quality NFL starting quarterback. So do I. Talk about accurate, talk about tough. Whew. Can move. I don't know what's not to love about him. Ask Mel Kiper. But my point is, if Shedeur were playing, and I think Jimmy Haslam in his heart of hearts knows that if Shedeur were playing right now for the Cleveland Browns, you don't talk about publicity, you would become the center of the NFL universe. Every game for the Cleveland Browns would be must see. So I'm just hoping that Deion knows something I don't know. I'm hoping that he got Jimmy Haslam's number that night at dinner, that they keep in touch, texting, and that Jimmy has assured him that he will see to Shedeur getting his shot at some point this year in Cleveland. I hope it's sooner than later, because this team has a chance to win a shocking amount of games, a shocking amount. I just hope Deion knows something I don't know, because my instincts tell me, the reality screams at me that there's just no way. I want him traded somewhere else at the trade deadline. But hey, this could be, as Deion always says, God works in very mysterious ways. If you got a chance with this group, with this defense, and that rookie running back, you got enough weapons, you could do some damage. Shadeur Sanders is the truth. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Tyler Korn for producing, to Ernestine for overseeing, and of course to Hazel for approving.